Hello and welcome to A Noise from the Deep, the Greenleaf Music Podcast, Puzzle Corner. This is our second one. I'm here with Art Chung. Hi, Art.
Hey, Dave.
Thank you
Yep.
so much for the previous puzzle. We only had one correct answer, and it was a lot more difficult than I thought. It was about the best-selling jazz albums of all time. And I will say, sadly, we didn't get any voice memos because we would play them in the episode. So future episodes, email your voice memo answer, if you have one, to podcast@greenleafmusic.com. We would love to hear it. Like I said, we got one person who got both of them right. But the biggest set of questions I got was, Art, what did you mean by jazz adjacent?
We had been discussing Kind of Blue as the best-selling instrumental jazz album of all time. And the questions I had for your listeners was, first, what was the best-selling jazz vocal album of all time? And did some people get that one right? That was Norah Jones's 2002 debut album, Come Away With Me.
A couple people got that right, yes.
Right. That was a huge hit. And would you consider that a jazz album? I believe
I would.
Yes.
I would, but I understand the word jazz adjacent, but I think it meant different things to different people.
Right. Well, then the second question was about what's the best-selling jazz adjacent, and because the answer was Kenny G with his sixth album, Breathless, who sold about 13 million albums as well. Yeah, I guess the phrase smooth jazz has its proponents and detractors. So do you consider that album a jazz album? Do you consider Kenny G a jazz musician?
Wow, well, that I don't have an answer for that, really. Mr. G is a fine saxophonist, but what is jazz? It's the perennial question that I've been asked since the beginning of my career. So I wouldn't presume to judge, but I think people did know. I think more people thought of Norah Jones as jazz adjacent than Kenny G, but as with all things G, we also received some, let's say, off-color messages that I wouldn't share publicly. But there were good guesses. The Gets Gilberto album was one that we had a few. Herbie Hancock Headhunters, George Benson. No one guessed Dave Brubeck Time Out or a Herb Alpert album, which I might have thought. We did have people that guessed Amy Winehouse, which jazz adjacent, and also Rod Stewart, jazz, perhaps a further adjacency, but nonetheless adjacent.
Oh, that's a great question too. Yeah, but yeah, I can see that. Right. I mean, and is it the instrumentation? Is it the arrangements? Are they covering jazz standards?
It depends who you talk to, Art.
Right.
You're wading into troublesome
Well, that's what
territory.
I'm interested in. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And who was the person who had both correct answers?
Susan Ryan, Bellingham, Washington.
Congratulations, Susan. Your prize is in the mail.
And next time we need a voice memo that we can play.
Absolutely.
And if you do leave a voice memo, try not to diss anybody. I try not to do that on this podcast. Family show.
It's a positive jazz podcast for sure.
Yeah. Okay, great. So what do you got for us this month?
Well, it is the time of the holidays. And speaking of jazz adjacent, I think it's there's something about Christmas. I was in Grand Central Station and, there was a trumpeter playing jazz standards, busking. And I think there's something about the holidays that says jazz. I don't know. Do you agree?
Huh. Maybe it's Vince Guaraldi who wrote and recorded the Charlie Brown Christmas album, and you hear that in stores all the time, and it's a welcome respite as far as I'm concerned. It's
right.
Vince Guaraldi was a great composer. Jerry Granelli played drums with him. So that's a really good one. I don't know, that Paul McCartney, It's a Wonderful Christmas Time. There's a long soprano saxophone solo in the middle of that song, which, yeah, okay, adjacent to something, but it's somebody improvising, and that's nice. Well, what do you think? I mean, John Zorn has recorded a Christmas album. Bob Dylan recorded a Christmas album, and to steal from the good folks at Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, they said that when he said Santa Claus is coming to town, he made it sound like a threat.
Well, I would say
Thank you.
that
I'm not taking credit for that joke.
it's funny that you mentioned Vince Guaraldi because that was one of the first things I thought of when we hit upon this topic of questions around holiday jazz. I do think that his song Linus and Lucy is a classic. And I had some questions about, Wynton Marsalis's, I think, quartet. And he recorded it with his father for Joe Cool's Blues. So I really enjoyed that one. But I think also like there's this aspect of jazz artists taking songs that we've all heard of and then interpreting it in their own fashion. And I think that is another way that jazz musicians combine like both the familiarity of the pop standard or a Christmas standard with their own thing. So, well, I have a couple of songs that I think kind of epitomize some aspect of holiday jazz. And what I think we're going to do is I'm going to give you some clues to them. The first clue is going to be pretty challenging, and then we'll have 5 clues for each and see how many clues it takes you.
I have to guess.
Yes, you have to guess.
So I'm putting something at risk here.
Well, the listener at home will also get a chance to guess. So if you at home are screaming by clue 4 that why hasn't Dave figured it out, you should call in. So
I love this. I'll just say I'm hoping the first one is White Christmas, recorded by Charlie Parker in 1946.
Oh, no, it is not.
My favorite.
You're scaring me because I'm like, you might guess some of these faster than I think. All right, here's the first song. The first clue for the first song is this song debuted in 1959 and is on the list of the American Film Institute's top 100 songs of the 20th century. And you don't have to guess if you're just like, I'm
and this is a Christmas song?
It's a Christmas song. Or I feel it's
top 100 songs of the 20th century?
From the American Film Institute. So that's
from the American Film
Institute. That it's been in a film.
And that's the first clue.
That's the first clue.
Okay, I don't know. All right, let me get the second clue.
Notable versions of this song have been recorded by Sarah Vaughan, the Sun Ra Quartet, Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass, and the Dave Brubeck Quartet, which became the title of their 1965 album. So this song was the title cut off of their 1965 album.
Wow. Oh, my God. Wow. Wow.
It's an interesting group of people, right? You're going to pass. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to ask for the next clue.
Sure. Arguably, the most famous jazz version of this song is a 14-minute version in E minor, recorded in October 1960 and released in March 1961.
And you're not going to tell me who the artist is, but I'm going to guess. I think I have this. It's Greensleeves?
No, it's not.
John Coltrane?
Maybe. We're going to go to clue 2.
Wait.
The lead performer on. Hold on. Okay,
go ahead.
I think I think you'll get it in the next.
I'm zeroing in on it, aren't I?
Yeah, the lead performer.
I think I have the artist right, but then My Favorite Things is that.
That's right.
Song?
It's My Favorite Things.
Oh, I never realized that was a Christmas song. Well, how obtuse I am.
It does mention warm woolen mittens, sleigh bells, and silver white winters that melt into springs. But yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So that's
Good.
right. My Favorite Things was, I mean, what's amazing is that he recorded that song only about a year after the song debuted on Broadway.
Yeah.
The Sound of Music. Right. And he immediately made it his own in a way that,
and in a way that Richard Rodgers apparently
didn't like.
Wasn't his favorite rendition, let's say. 14 minutes.
14 minutes and an E minor. I mean, also, that was the first album that Coltrane played the soprano saxophone on. And,
interesting. Wow.
And that sax had been purchased for him by Miles Davis when they were in Europe together. So, I mean, I love that. I mean, that's such an iconic.
Did you know that apparently, and I heard this from Steve Lacy himself, the soprano saxophonist, that Coltrane heard him play and asked him about the soprano, and then that was the result was that he ended up getting that soprano.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. All right, well, let's go to the second song. For this information, I have to thank Nate Sloan and Charlie Harding, who are the hosts of the podcast Switched on Pop. I'm going to give a plug for this podcast because I help edit that podcast.
Nice.
Because they did a recent episode on this song, and I was like, wait, this is perfect. There's so many facts about this song. So this Christmas song was written in 1934 by composer J. Fred Coots and lyricist Haven Gillespie, who are both members of the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And what's interesting about this writing pair is that they would go on to write the jazz standard, You Go to My Head. But they wrote a Christmas song in 1934.
Okay.
Any ideas?
No.
Okay. This song is the last song on side A of the Bill Evans album Trio 64, which features drummer Paul Motion and bassist Gary Peacock. And it's the only holiday song on the album. It's not clear why there's a holiday song on this album.
It's not Santa Claus is Coming to Town, is it?
It is. It is. Well done.
Oh,
Which you
wow.
mentioned right before.
Every Christmas this goes around, there's a bootleg of Bill Evans. It must have been that sessions. It's Bill Evans, but he's singing and playing.
Yes. Yes. He's singing.
And that's not on the album.
No,
Right?
but
This is an outtake. And he says right before he does it, he says, "Look, I'm only going to do this once. You better get it."
right. You don't associate him with like, oh, Santa Claus is coming to town. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a great song, and he's reharmonized it. Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, so you got in two, which is wonderful.
Okay. All right.
There's some other interesting tidbits.
There's still hope for me.
Well, no. Well, Ella Fitzgerald recorded the song "Santa Claus is Coming to Town" on her album "Ella Wishes You a Swinging Christmas." And did you know there are more lyrics than we hear in the pop version? Yeah,
No.
the original version includes the lyrics. "I just came back from a lovely trip along the Milky Way. I stopped off at the North Pole to spend the holiday. I called on dear old Santa Claus to see what I could see. He took me to his workshop and told his plans to me." And then it goes, "And so you better not out." It's a very interesting song. And also what Nate and Charlie pointed out was that the actual form of the song has changed over time since the 30s, because there's really not, it's not really in the, it was more in the tradition of the AABA song form. And then with particularly the Crystals version, which was produced by Phil Spector, they added the chorus, that becomes like Santa Claus is coming. I can't believe I'm singing.
Yeah.
And that's the version that, like, since the 70s,
everybody's covered.
Everybody sings
Springsteen and
exactly.
Yeah.
So there was also a 1970 version with the animated TV special. Do you know who narrates the animated TV special? This is not Jen.
Andy Williams.
Close. It's Fred Astaire.
Okay.
So in the same year that, Michael Jackson and Jackson 5 are singing this version, there's also a Fred Astaire version, which is just very old school, 1930s,
Great.
Yeah. So that's a great thing. So, wow. So great job. How'd you get it from the Bill Evans question?
Oh, because I listened to that version of him sing it every year. So I figured that's probably the only one that he played.
That is the only holiday song I think I've found that he recorded besides "A Child Is Born," which is, yeah. So that's it. So the album was put out in January of 1964, and I think the speculation is that some of the songs were just recorded around Christmas, the year before. Well, great job.
Sonny Rollins, I think, recorded a lot of Christmas songs, but in his own versions.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's also, sort of like pop stars record their own, if it hits, it becomes a song that, people play every year. So here's the last question, and you don't have to give the answer to this, because this is for
this is going out to the audience. Okay, everybody, listen up. And we want your answers. And if you can, email us a voice memo. It's podcast@greenleafmusic.com. And we would love to get your participation into the next episode.
Great. Well,
and no dissing anybody.
No, I don't think this question is not set up for that.
Okay.
This holiday song won the 1950 Academy Award for Best Original Song, and was written by Frank Lesser to sing with his wife at their housewarming parties to tell their guests it was time to go home.
Wow.
What is that song?
I want one of those.
Let us know if you can guess that. No Googling.
Wow. I have a couple guesses, but
maybe
I'm not going to say anything. I'm keeping it.
Yeah, we'll log off first. So, Dave, enjoy your holidays.
You too, and everybody out there as well. Yeah, it's time to take a breather. It's going to be a heck of a year. And we've got to all breathe, and everybody keep doing their part. And we'll be back with another puzzle, but send us your answers for this one. And Art Chung, amazing. Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Thank you. So much fun.
Great to have you.
Thanks.